Welcome to another Growth Club session. We are currently working through the book How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LaPera. And this book is all about trauma healing, unraveling some things from childhood that might be repeating patterns today. And so this really directly relates to parenting because our inner child comes out or comes through a lot when we are parenting our own children. So some of the traumas that might have been experienced in childhood, whether you currently view them as traumas or not, could come up as triggers when we are parenting our own children. So learning how to heal from any traumas that we have will help to get a better handle on triggers that we have, which in turn will help in our parenting because we won't be reacting from trauma and triggers. We can be a little bit more proactive with our kids, and so it's just a beautiful way to break the cycle. So let's jump in. Today we are talking about trauma in the body, trauma stored in the body. So when we talk about trauma, a lot of times we will sit and compare our experiences with other people's experiences, right? So for a long time, I would look at my traumas and say, you know what? Other people had it worse. This can't be trauma because other people had it way worse. But the thing is, as far as your body is concerned, it doesn't really matter what the instance was or instances were that caused the trauma that's stored in your body right now. Your body is concerned with how you reacted, how your nervous system reacted, how your brain reacted, how your body reacted. That reaction to the trauma, no matter what that trauma looks like externally, your reaction to that trauma is what stays with you. Right? That's what's causing stress inside of your body. So stress is not just, oh my gosh, my car broke down and I need to get it to the shop and I don't have the budget to do that, right? That's stress, but that's everyday normal stress. When we talk about stress from trauma, we're talking about chronic stress. We're talking about stress that doesn't go away when we take a couple of deep breaths, or it doesn't go away when the car gets fixed or there's more money in the budget, right? We're talking about stress that is internal, repeating, chronic, because your body is having a reaction to events that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? These unresolved events that live with you in like the fibers of your being. And that type of stress, that chronic stress, that trauma stress causes a lot of what looks like physical symptoms. So we go to the doctor and we get the pills and we get the treatment plans and we get all of these things. And I'm not saying that that's not valid. I'm not saying that sometimes you need those things. But I do want to make you aware that sometimes this like chronic internal stress manifests or shows itself to you in physical illness. And so we have to be really aware of like what's going on, when is it going on, how can I listen to my body, what is my body trying to tell me, right? Because it is shown through like studies that people with this chronic stress, when you can't settle your internal system, when you have this chronic dysfunction, essentially this chronic internal dysfunction, you get sick more often, right? And you die sooner because your body is just getting worn out. And forget about that for a second, right? Forget about sort of like that long term, like how do you feel in a day to day? I know that my chronic stress, the dysfunction inside of my body, that stress that I can't get relief from because it's coming from past trauma, like it wears on you. Just think about a day. Don't think about a lifespan. Think about a day. Like if you are living in trauma, how does your day look? Like, how worn out do you get just doing the regular stuff, dealing with the regular day-to-day stress, dealing with the regular day-to-day, even good things, right? Like, how quickly do we lose that energy? Do we lose the patience? How quickly do we have an interaction with our child that just flips our whole internal system, and now all of a sudden the day is ruined, right? How often is this showing up? And the important thing with trauma, is that it's kind of unavoidable, right? So I can say all day long that I'm doing the work right now so that my kids don't have to heal. And that is a big motivator for me. I want to give my children the best opportunity to not have to heal from their childhood, to not have to heal from trauma. But in reality, trauma is unavoidable. There could be things that are going on right now that their body is reacting to with a trauma response. There could be things that happen that I have no control over that their body reacts to as a trauma response. In the book, um, she talks about, like, when you come into this world is a trauma. Like, literally your first experience in this world is a trauma, right? Whether you're born vaginally or C-section, it doesn't matter. It's a trauma, it's a shock, right? It's shock to your system. And it's not about, remember, it's not about the event. It's about, how does your body respond to it? How does your body recover from it? Um, Now, whatever that response is, if we keep repeating that response, that trauma response, right, that's where the patterns come in. That's where, we pass down our traumas. That's where we lash out on people because we are hurting inside from our traumas. So the good thing is, um, you can heal from those traumas, right? And the healing process starts a lot in awareness. And we're not going to get into healing today. I just want you to be aware, and I am going to give you an assignment though. But I want you to be aware that trauma, here's like your key takeaways, okay? Trauma is unavoidable, okay? It can happen in the smallest or the biggest of events, but it is unavoidable. You comparing your trauma with the trauma of others is not serving anybody, okay? In order to heal from your trauma, you need to understand that whatever the event or events were, your response to those events, your response to that thing is what's triggering, and creating chronic stress in your body and creating a slew of external issues in your life, physically, mentally, the way you parent, the way you interact with your spouse, like, all of these things can be affected. And the only way that we can start healing, the only way we can even like start thinking about, hey, what are the tools to heal myself, is kind of coming into that awareness, coming into, like, validating your own trauma, validating the things that happened to you. Why can we look at somebody else and say, wow, that must have been really hard for them? But we can't look at ourselves and say that. We have to look at ourselves and we have to say, I should have handled that better. I didn't do a good job. Beat ourselves up, beat ourselves up, beat ourselves up. Why is this affecting me so much, right? Instead of looking at ourselves through compassion. So that's where the shift starts. The shift starts with saying, you know what? I recognize that whether the people around me intended to cause trauma or, were trying their best, it doesn't matter. This thing was traumatic to me. This thing repeats in my life, even now, years and years later. I see it in my patterns. I see it in my physical well-being. I see it in my mental well-being. I see it in my relationships. Um, I'm going to shed some light there, and I'm going to start exploring there, so that I can start healing, so that I can start making little changes, right? Hey, Jill. So here is your assignment for today. Your assignment is to check in with yourself without judgment. And you can do this through a post in the community. You can do this in a journal. You can do this by just sitting and thinking, right? But sometimes what we'll do is we'll sit and we'll start like thinking And then like we don't want to go there, like like our brain doesn't want to go there. We don't want to admit that there could be some traumas. We don't want to admit that, you know, the people who we love, our parents, right, our siblings, our friends, our spouse, could cause us trauma. And so I want you to take away any shame and guilt and blame and anger, right? We're not looking for somebody to blame. We're not looking to pass the torch and say, you did this to me, now you deal with it, right? No, no. We're looking for, where in my life are things not working? And if I sit with those places that things aren't working, physical health, mental health, the way you interact with your children, the way you interact with your spouse, the way that you interact in social settings, like any of it, the way that you treat your body, like all of it. What are the things in my life that just don't feel right? They're not working for me, right? Something feels off when I scream at my child. Something feels off when I binge 3 packages of Doritos. Something feels off when I do these things. And then like dig a little bit deeper. Just start thinking back. Okay, what could this be tied to? And validate anything that comes up. Okay, don't make excuses for it. Don't belittle it. Don't say that's not, no, that's not good enough. That couldn't be it. Validate it. Okay, this is an option. Doesn't mean that that's it. Doesn't mean you have to go work to solve the problem. Just means bring the awareness. Bring the awareness, bring the acceptance. That's where you're going to start your healing. It's not about the things that you do. Okay, in your personal growth journey. And remember, this is holistic home journey. Like I'm on this journey too. I'm not an expert 100%. I will tell you that every single day. But this is what I have learned so far in my journey, right? Is it's not about the things you do. It's not about the steps you take or the journal prompts or going to the gym, or it's not about any of that. It's literally just about, and I'm talking about for personal growth and for parenting growth. Okay. It is about your mindset. It's about, what am I willing to bring awareness to? What am I willing to dig a little bit deeper and accept? What am I willing to question? Like, why do I do it this way? Why do I feel this way about that? What, it's all about the mindset. So that is your very long extended version of your assignment for today. Okay. Is to check in with yourself, validate your potential places for trauma, validate your experiences that felt traumatic to you, no matter how big or small, and sit with that for a little while. Like, how does that feel to validate these things that you've been pushing through? Somebody on TikTok is saying, I just finished my bachelor's in psych and minor in early childhood. Have you read Beyond Behaviors? No, I haven't. Mindset is everything. Yes. Awesome. So I'm going to hang out on TikTok a little bit. Let me end the feed here. For anybody watching this replay, you can leave your thoughts, your comments, whatever it is inside of the community. I'm active in there. I will help you through this journey. Again, I'm not an expert. I am on this journey with you, but I've been doing it for a couple of years, and I think I've made a lot of progress. So I'm happy to help you on your journey. You know what? I'm going to let this run while I chat on TikTok, but for anybody who is watching the replay, if you want to just end it now, you can. That was sort of my lesson and my assignment for the week, but let's kind of have a conversation. Yeah, I'm always open to book recommendations. Basically, my entire Amazon wish list for Christmas this year was books, parenting books and personal growth books. Jill says mindset is everything. It is. It really is. The shift of mindset. So the very first thing that I ever did in my journey of personal growth was to start recognizing the good in every day. That is the first thing that I did. And hold on, let me get my little book over here. Hold on. Yes, I still have pajama pants on. Actually, this is a pajama shirt too. It's my husband's shirt. So I have this journal. It's called the Work in Progress Journal. And I made this journal based on the daily practice that helped me in the beginning of my journey. I still do this practice, but part of this is every day, the last thing that you do for the day is daily good. And that is actually the first thing that I started for my personal growth journey. And so, what I would do, I think it was for New Year's 2018, I started a little Google Doc in my phone. And every single day, the last thing I did before I went to bed is I wrote one good thing that happened that day. And some days that was really easy. Like we went and did something really fun. And so there was like a clear favorite part of the day. But I remember one day in particular was really hard for me. I had gotten this procedure done. The anesthetic didn't work, and the machine broke halfway through the procedure. So I basically had to muscle through and scream and curse my way through this horrific procedure. It was a terrible day. It was a traumatic day. And I'm laying in bed at the end of the night, completely traumatized, half still drugged up, and I'm thinking about like there's no good that came from this day. Like this is like the worst day ever. Like I hope I forget this day. Like I'm done with this day. But I forced myself to pick a favorite part of the day. And I wound up, I think that day writing down something like, my favorite part of the day was like how my husband helped me get set up in my bed and like brought me a whole little station of like snacks and drinks and stuff so that I didn't have to get up. And it's like that's where my mindset shift really started to happen, is to say, you know what, even on like the worst days, there is good, but we have to really like sit and think about it the same way that we sit and think about all the bad. We have to think about and acknowledge the good, the positive. What can I be thankful for? You know, and that's where the change really started to happen for me. Three Cats in a Room. That sounds good. I'll check out that book. I'm currently in the middle of I'm currently in the middle of this book, How to Do the Work. I'm also in the middle of my positive discipline parenting course that I'm taking. And I'm also in the middle of writing my own book. So I'm like, let me finish something. And then, yes, I will add another book to my list. We've actually been working through this book for several weeks now, maybe even close to 2 or 3 months. And we're only just, I think we're just in chapter 4, because we're really breaking down like every lesson. We're breaking down every lesson. Like how can we take these lessons and not just read it and say, that was a nice lesson in that book, right? And instead take it and apply it to our lives, apply it to our parenting. The book, sure. It's called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LePera. It says, recognize your patterns, heal from your past, and create yourself. And then she also, so her name is the holistic psychologist. She's on TikTok too. She's also on Instagram. And she has, I showed this the other day because I was talking about personal growth in kids, right? Because, and I'll show you this too. Yes, am I a believer in personal growth for grown-ups? Yes, 100%. Changed my life, is changing my life, and I think it's changing the lives of a lot of people. So that's where this book comes in, How to Do the Work. And then she also has like a free journal on her website, Future Self Journal, which if you like to journal, if that resonates with you, it's good. I use parts of it. If I do the whole practice, I get a little bit overwhelmed, but I do use parts of it. But then also, I'm a big believer in personal growth for kids. So she also has a Future Self Journal for kids, which I haven't really started, but it is it's interesting because a lot of these things are things that I already do with my daughter. Why are you unique? What is your goal for today? What are you grateful for? What do you love most about yourself? Um, Even if I have a bad day, I'm good because blank, right? These are all like things that are really important to talk about with your kids. And then also, we're working through with my 5-year-old growth mindset for kids. And so here, like, can you imagine? Can you imagine if we learned these lessons that we're learning now in our 30s, like when we were 5? Like, can you imagine what your life would be if you learned about like healthy coping mechanisms and healthy self-talk, and that you have value aside from your accomplishments, and that you are allowed to be unique, and that you have value and you are loved and you are lovable even when you make mistakes, even when you make bad decisions. Like, can you imagine? It's powerful. Building relationships using those questions helps them grow and develop. I love that. Yeah, we we do affirmations a lot. Um, and there's one thing that we say frequently, I say to my kids is, let's say if we are having a bad day, um, which I do notice, and you could just be mindful of this for yourself as well, right? I do notice that, hold on, let me take this background off. I do notice that when we're having a bad day, like, we're having a bad day, right? It's not my kids just being bad or whatever. I notice, like, when we're having a bad day, like, I'm giving them attitude, they're giving me attitude, like, maybe we're not engaging in fun activities, right? Like, it's just like a bad day sometimes. And one thing that I make sure to say to my kids on those bad days is, you know, I love you no matter what. You know, we're having a really hard time today and I still love you, right? You made a really poor decision just now. That was not a good choice. Um, but I still love you when you make poor decisions. That was not really kind when you did blank. Um, I still love you when you're not kind. We're going to work on it, right? We're not going to excuse it. We're not going to just let it go and say, it's everything you do is fine. No, we address it, we learn from it, we move forward, we talk about that. But also, or I should say, and also, I still love you. Because a lot of times kids, they are so hard on themselves because they're afraid that they're going to lose that love, that they're not going to be lovable, right? If you have an older child, let's say your child is like, I don't know, 6 to 10 years old, right? And they tend to do baby talk, right? Think about that for a second. What happened when they were babies? Like, everything was excusable. Everything was, it's just a baby. She's just a baby. Oh, you're learning. And then at a certain age, we start holding them more accountable, which is fine. But we forget that they still need that love. They still need that affection. They still need to know that no matter what they do, we're still going to love them the same. Um, and so sometimes when we don't show that to them, they start talking in baby voice. They start acting a little bit like younger, and we call it a regression. But what I've noticed is when my child is talking in baby voice or acting like baby, it's because she's seeking a certain attention or a certain reassurance that she got when she was a baby, or that her little sister gets, that she's not currently getting. And so just to be mindful of that. All right, y'all. I am going to pop off. I'm going to go eat some breakfast. You can rewatch today's episode of Growth Club in the community. It should be up in a couple of hours. If you're not already in the community, go pop over there. I'm most available in there. You can ask questions. There's like 300 and something mamas in there that are all on the same journey. And it's free. There's a paid version, but you can get tons of value for free. I appreciate you being here. I do live Q&A on Thursday. So if you have questions, go drop your questions in the community throughout the week. And then on Thursdays, I answer everything live. And then Growth Club happens on Sundays. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I appreciate you being here.